Welcome back to another episode of Reverts Reality. My name is Nahela Morales, and I'm here with my co-host, Sister Orenda Dadkhah. Today, we have two very special guests, and we will be talking about a very serious, heartbreaking story, which to many of you may be foreign, and so that's why today is very important. We are going to go down a timeline, but prior to that, let me introduce my guests, Brother Faizan Syed from CAIR, here in the DFW area, Texas. And we have Sister Marwa, who is Dr. Aafia Siddiqui's attorney. Welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you for
And I
having
know your last name because I don't want to chop it. Elbially.
Elbially, yeah, you're good.
See? No, but today, Subhanallah, one of the reasons why we're bringing this case is because it can happen to any one of us. And so, Subhanallah, having CAIR here and having Sister Marwa, who is an attorney, it is very important for our convert community, our Revert community, to be informed, be aware. Many of you may know or may not know, but once you convert to Islam, you practically, your faith practically becomes your race. So I'm no longer Mexican. I'm now the Muslim lady. And so these are facts, and these are facts that we live by. Sister Orenda is no longer Caucasian. Sister Orenda is now the Muslim lady. And so this is so important. And I know with CAIR, we have a Know Your Rights initiative, and that's something very important to look into. So we will put all of that information in the details below, inshallah. Why is it important? For those of you that may not know, many of us are targeted, especially those of us who are in the public eye, including myself. I've had the FBI knocking at my door, and every time I travel internationally, I get pulled over for a double, triple, fourth screening. So one of the cases that was very public was of Brandon Mayfield. And so he was a army military gentleman who was serving in the military out of Oregon, and basically he was blamed for the 2004, if I'm not mistaken, is that correct? 2004, 2006 Madrid bombing.
We froze. Yes, it's correct. That was the 2004 Madrid train bombings. And the FBI arrested him as a material witness. Are you there, Sister Nahela?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
Sorry. Yeah, so again, this can happen to any one of us. And so,
okay, sorry about that. Technical difficulties there. As always, huh? Go ahead.
Yeah, so inshallah, let's get into some statistics that Sister Orenda found, and then we'll go into Dr. Aafia Siddiqui's case. We want to bring awareness first and foremost. Secondly, many of you, including Sister Orenda, did not know Dr. Aafia Siddiqui's case until recently. So this is what this episode is about. Sit back and
some
please.
Difficulties again hearing. Okay. Shall we continue here? Do you want to switch over? Okay. So getting back to the Brandon Mayfield, he was wrongly accused, but in the end, he was able to prove his innocence. And I think it brings to point a lot of statistics here. According to the High Court, .co, there's 33 startling wrongful conviction statistics. And sadly, this is a very common thing. Between 2% and 10% of convicted individuals in the U.S. prison are innocent. So according to a 2019 annual report by the National Registry of Exonerations, wrongful conviction statistics show that the percentage of wrongful convictions is somewhere between 2 and 10%. So how many are wrongly convicted in the prison system? We need to keep in mind that there's 2.3 million incarcerated individuals in the United States, and we can see that the number of people, the innocent people behind bars, is anywhere between 46,000 and 230,000. That is a very frighteningly high number. So since 1989. So that gives us Brendan Mayfield was one of those lucky people that was exonerated from that wrongfully accused crime that he was convicted of. Since 1989, there have been 375 convicts who were found innocent due to DNA testing. The 165 actual perpetrators were identified in the 375 DNA exoneration cases. These are a little bit more like detailed, but if we go, proven innocent people have served more than 23,950 years in prison so far. And out of 100 sentenced to death, 4 are likely innocent, but only 2 get exonerated. 69% of wrongful conviction cases happen due to eyewitness misidentification. This is very important. False confessions account for 29% of wrongful convictions. Official misconduct plays a part in 31% of murder exonerations, and false accusations are present in 70% of wrongful convictions. Those are very high numbers for something that can take somebody's life and just absolutely destroy it. So I found those to be extremely disturbing to hear those stats. And we're going to go into a story now today of someone who has experienced some of those stats in her life.
I hope you can hear me. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Anyways, we want to jump into real quick with Brother Faizan. Let us know what's happening with CAIR and why are we doing what we're doing, what happened on Saturday, and inshallah, then we'll move on to Sister Marwa, and she'll give us more of Dr. Aafia Siddiqui's timeline.
Inshallah, khair. Well, let me just start off by talking about who is Dr. Aafia Siddiqui and why is it important. Dr. Aafia Siddiqui is a mother of 3. She has a PhD from Brandeis University. She is a model immigrant story here in the United States. She came to the United States, got married, had children, got her degree, and did everything right. However, she is also a survivor of domestic abuse. And when she returned to Pakistan, she was basically kidnapped by the United States and Pakistani government, disappeared for several years, wound up getting shot at by US soldiers, got exonerated and brought back to the United States to serve her trial. And then she got sentenced to 86 years, death behind bars, for a crime that she did not commit, for a crime that she had no action or involvement in. And what's important about this is that, of course, for many of our viewers who are listening today, you might think, well, the US system is fairly fair. It's a fairly just. How could this have happened? Surely there must have been some evidence behind it. The reality is that Dr. Aafia Siddiqui was never charged for terrorism. Instead, she was charged for allegedly trying to shoot and kill 6 US soldiers. However, the instance of it is that, okay, if she shot the US soldiers, where's the evidence? Was there a gun that she utilized? And of course, that was, the US government couldn't be bothered to bring that evidence. What about if you shoot a rifle, the residue gets on your clothing and on your hands? Again, that material evidence couldn't be brought in in the trial. They said that there's a bullet hole. What about bullet holes that might have been coming from that gun? Again, the one bullet hole that they found had actually been there weeks before Dr. Aafia was ever in that hospital. The only person that was shot was Dr. Aafia Siddiqui. And what we believe more than likely happened is that Dr. Aafia was kidnapped by these US soldiers. He tried to flee. One of these 18, 19-year-old kids shot her, freaked out, and then the US government tried to cover up what happened. Even if Dr. Aafia tried to shoot a US soldier, the judge that was in charge of her case gave her every enhancement and made her serve this consecutively, which means that something that should have been maybe she could have gone to jail for like 10 or some years turned into 86 years behind bars, which is literally death behind bars. The important thing about Dr. Aafia Siddiqui's case is that her case is not a unicorn case. This happened to hundreds, if not thousands of people, that over the so-called war on terror that the United States initiated, which really is a war of terrorism that has devastated the lives of millions of people around the world, Dr. Aafia is just one of hundreds of people who disappeared and who were sold to the United States government as, quote unquote, having some linkage to whatever type of terrorism that there is. So this is the reality of why this case is so severe. Subhanallah, Dr. Aafia Siddiqui is languishing in jail right here in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, in a prison called FMC Carswell. And this last weekend, alhamdulillah, we were able to organize a rally in support of Dr. Aafia Siddiqui so she could see that she has not been forgotten.
And so this rally, what were we hoping to accomplish with this rally, and what is next?
Of course. You know, when I spoke to Sister Marwa Elbially, who's the attorney who actually gets to, who represents Dr. Aafia Siddiqui, one of the things that really struck me is the fact that Dr. Aafia believes that the world has forgotten about her, that her life no longer matters, that people have simply moved on, and she is now going to be a voiceless, nameless individual lost in history. And we wanted to tell her and the world that she is not forgotten, that we love and desperately care for Dr. Aafia, and we are not going to stop until Dr. Aafia is free and returned back to her children, which she has now been separated from them for almost 18 years, believe it or not.
Sorry, I muted myself. Okay. Thank you for that. Sister Marwa, so I want us kind of, Brother Faizan took us through some of the timeline, but since coming on, what can you share with the audience, specifically the audience that wants to get involved but is too either afraid, doesn't know the repercussions, perhaps even consequences? Can you share a little bit about those rights that, as Americans, you know, the freedom of speech, what do we have to worry about basically when it comes to standing up for Dr. Aafia Siddiqui?
So, I mean, we're speaking to, I'm assuming, a mainly Muslim audience here. So, of course, our trust and faith, and above everything else, is always in Allah. That if we do justice, that we are here in this earth, we have to speak out, and we have to speak the truth and speak truth to power, right? And of course, as Americans, we do have constitutional rights that protect our ability to do so and our ability to advocate for others. You brought up the very important case of Brandon Mayfield. And he was an attorney actually when this happened. He is an Army veteran. He's an Army vet, and he had served in the military, and that's why they had his fingerprints on record. But he was actually a full-fledged attorney. I think he wouldn't have been targeted in the way that he was but for the fact that he's Muslim. Because they knew he wasn't in Madrid. They knew he had nothing to do with it. And like, it makes no sense that his fingerprint would be over there. But they still arrested him and detained him for 2 weeks. And like Faizan said, this problem was very widespread post 9/11. There was a hysteria. They were looking for terrorists anywhere and everywhere within the Muslim community. Their focus, of course, was on the Muslim community. So we bring up those kind of cases because what happened to Dr. Aafia Siddiqui is not a unicorn case. And it is very important that we as Muslims, she has generally been forgotten within the American community, American Muslim community, within the American community in large, right? I've spoken with a lot of people who've never even heard of her name to begin with, because her trial when she was sentenced to death behind bars, the 86-year sentence, was back in 2010. Her initial disappearance was in March of 2003. So this is really close to the post 9/11, kind of hysteria that was going on. So the important thing to know about Aafia Siddiqui is she did live in the United States for an extended period of time. She moved over here in the early 90s on a student visa. She was studying initially in University of Houston, transferred to MIT on a full ride, graduated from MIT, went off to Brandeis University in Boston with where she studied a PhD in neuroscience. She was studying something about how children imitate each other, how children learn through imitation. Of course, that was twisted. There's a lot of disinformation and misinformation out there about her case. Definitely don't use Wikipedia as your reference. You really have to delve deep in order to get any real facts. So what happened is they painted her out to be this like brilliant scientist who's looking to do some kind of weapons attack, even though if you know like the basics of what she was studying, you know it has zero relevance to anything dangerous. So she graduates with her PhD, and she has 3 children. She's in an abusive marriage. They move back to Pakistan, where she's originally from. She actually, her only status in the US was as a student. So she doesn't have any legal status here. She's not a US citizen, and she's not a green card holder. Okay. So she moves back to Pakistan with her husband and 3 children. They divorce in October of 2002. She divorces this man, and she has custody of the children. She disappears in March of 2003 with the kids. The kids are disappeared as well. Okay. And for the next 5 years, we have no confirmation on her location. She testified in her trial that she was held in secret prisons. The government of the United States denies that she was either interrogated by the US or held in those prisons. Okay. So we have other witnesses. I don't know if anybody's seen the Taxi to the Dark Side. That gives you an idea of the torture and the stuff that was going on in places like Iraq and Afghanistan during this period of time. It's this documentary by Alex Gibney that won the 2008 Oscars. It's dark, but it just gives you the amount of just like the hell that was going on and happening at the time, right? And it is a dark stain on us as Americans that this happened under our name. So we don't have any official confirmation of that. What we do know, and what she was tried for, is she reappears. Keep in mind, she's Pakistani and she was living in Karachi, Pakistan. She reappears thousands of miles away in a place called Ghazni, Afghanistan. Okay, it's like a small, I want to say it's like a town. It's not, maybe like a really small city. It's nothing major in Afghanistan. Sure, she reappears over there. She reappears in front of the governor's compound with only her eldest son accompanying her. And so she has a bag full of very suspicious items. And she's immediately arrested because she looks very strange. She's a foreign woman. She doesn't speak a lick of the local languages. She doesn't, she's wandering around the streets, not wearing the burqa that all these other Afghan women wear. So she sticks out. People try to talk to her. She can't understand them. They can't understand her. So she's picked up by the Afghan police for questioning. Immediately, the United States wants to question her as well. They deny knowing at the time that it was Aafia Siddiqui. The important thing that I didn't mention was that in March, like somewhere in 2004, the FBI released a most wanted poster saying that she's Lady Al-Qaeda. Okay. I have seen no evidence of any like substantive association with Al-Qaeda. And I think that's why she was never tried for terrorism. There was no case brought against her in the United States or anywhere else for terrorism. So there was all these rumors and disinformation put out there. So she reappears in July 17th, 2008, July 18th, 2008, while she's in detention at the Ghazni police station. The US soldiers and 2 FBI agents are brought in to question her. So they're brought into this room where there's a yellow curtain separating it. And they ask her, they allege that they did not know that she was in the room. Okay, because she's behind this curtain. So they allege that they did not know she was in the room. One of these soldiers says that out of respect for Afghan culture, he put down his large M4 rifle on the ground. And keep in mind, it's multiple soldiers and 2 FBI agents, and the room's not that big. It's fairly small. And so he says he puts it down. And then there's ridiculous amount of different stories that they all testified to during her trial. One guy said she pulled it out from under the curtain. Another guy said she came around outside of the curtain and just like slowly snuck up, and then yada yada. They all tell different stories, but the theme of it basically is she grabs the weapon and starts shooting at them, and then they shoot her back. Nobody else is injured. Nobody else, these bullets that she allegedly shot, they disappeared into thin air. Nobody, like, because you're talking about a small room with a lot of people in it. Nobody's like even scathed with a bullet, nothing. She's shot multiple times in the stomach. She has to be flown to Bagram, where she's barely makes it, with all these emergencies. They have like emergency operations on her. She barely makes it. She's detained in Bagram until she's flown to the United States on August 4th, 2008, and an indictment's issued. Criminal charges are pressed against her for attempted murder of U.S. nationals. The whole trial that she ended up having in 2010 was only about July 18th, 2008. Everybody pretended the 5 years didn't happen. Nothing happened before. No, it wasn't a question of what the hell was she doing in Afghanistan? Why was she over there to begin with? It was just like, did she really attempt to kill these soldiers or not? That's what she was tried for. She is convicted. The judge on September 23rd, actually today is the anniversary of her sentencing, sentences her to 86 years. He gets to that sentence by taking all of the charges, maxing them out, and having her serve them consecutively. So 2, 4, 6, 8, instead of having her serve them concurrently, where he would have been able to only max out at 20 years. Her defense team at the time was asking for 12 years, right? So that's how she ended up with this obscene sentence of death behind bars, where like you would think that somebody was very seriously injured, or somebody was like, you know, that she really got, like she managed to get somebody. I mean, honestly, murderers don't get the sentence that she got where people actually die, right? So this is, I view it as a political case. I think she was targeted. They fabricated like this whole, I wouldn't say they fabricated out a whole cloth. They made webs and they were making ties. Everybody knows the American Muslim community is not that big at the end of the day. It's like 1 degree of difference or 2 degrees of difference between you and every other American Muslim, right? So there was so many ridiculous conspiracies being made up by the FBI during this period of time. And I think she basically was a victim of that. And this is just giving you like the cliff notes of her whole case. The other important thing to mention is everybody always asks about the children. So I told you only the oldest son reappeared with her in July of 2008. Keep in mind the 2 oldest children are US citizens because they are born here in the United States. So Ahmed, he reappeared with her. Maryam didn't reappear again. The story is officially that she was left in front of the house of her grandmother in Karachi, Pakistan, with a sign around her neck saying Maryam Khan. And they did DNA tests and confirmed that she is indeed the daughter of Aafia Siddiqui. And she reappears in April of 2010. So she reappears after Aafia is found guilty by the jury in February of 2010. The baby is unknown till now. There's rumors that he's dead, that he died during the initial kidnapping, or he died in Afghanistan or whatever, but there's no official confirmation of anything. So baby Sulaiman, who was I think only 6 months old when she disappeared, we have no confirmation of whether he is dead or alive. And that's with regards to the children. So it is a very distressing case. And as Faizan mentioned, unfortunately, there's thousands of other cases out there where there was a lot of people being disappeared during this time period. Of course, mostly they were men, but I've heard of other cases of women who were disappeared as well. And it's very important that we highlight this, that we use our privileges as Americans to make sure that this kind of injustice is not left without being addressed.
Absolutely. Subhanallah, you know, it's, and this is where I think that it can happen to any one of us, right, at any given time. And this is one of my biggest fears after converting, my life changed in 360, you know, 180, it just changed completely. And so, Sister Marwa, there's a lot of people out there that have felt exhausted at some point, have, you know, picked up and been part of a coalition, what have you, or a campaign, and then it dies down. So this time around, you know, we are praying that it doesn't die down, and we're going to keep it alive until Dr. Aafia Siddiqui is free, inshallah. So one of the questions, that always comes up is, what are the consequences? What is the repercussion when it comes to, I want to be an activist per se, or I want to advocate for my sister. And as Muslims, we know that we have responsibilities, right, upon each other. We have rights upon each other. And so the Prophet ﷺ tells us that we have to speak up. And the worst, the weakest of faith is to hate it in your heart. So we have to stand up, speak up. And then last is just hate it in your heart. So Sister Marwa, what are those repercussions? What is something that we need to be careful? Is there something that our audience needs to know? I know that we need to know our rights at all times, but right now, as we're going to pilot a huge campaign for Dr. Aafia Siddiqui, we want to make sure that we answer these questions, inshallah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Naida. We are blessed to live in the US, and there is freedoms and privileges that we have here that are not available to people elsewhere. I think we need to use those rights, right? I'm not concerned about speaking out about this case right now. Her case, she had a public trial. Everything that I'm telling you right now is public record. Okay. I think the big obstacle was people just being educated about it. I think now is the time to speak out. It's been 20 years since the tragedy of 9/11. And I think Americans in general are more clear-headed when it comes to these issues, and they're not as willing to jump to conclusions as they were before. So I wouldn't worry about the repercussions. I mean, we're talking about a woman, first of all, who was tortured, who was imprisoned, who had her family ripped apart, and 18 years she's been suffering. So if you get some people telling you support a terrorist, honestly, I don't have to, I don't see any real repercussions in our lives, right? Anything that could potentially happen to us is like super minor. It might be like little microaggressions. It's nothing that I personally would be concerned about. Right now, we have a sister who's been treated extremely unjustly, and it is our duty as Muslims and our duty as human beings, really, to stand by her and be like, no, this is not acceptable. You can't treat another human being this way, period. She has a right to due process. She has a right to be treated in a fair manner. She has a right to have her story told, and she has a right to have her voice heard.
Jazakallah khair for that. Subhanallah, our audience is saying that it was very well presented to us. And so this is why we're doing this, because like you said, Sister Marwa, I think it's been far too long that people, go to Wikipedia and just don't do their homework as far as really understanding the case. I know I've had to, subhanAllah, I've had to block people, the minute that they say something that is very negative. Right now, we need positivity. And so Dr. Aafia is feeling like we forgot her. And this is where we all come in as an ummah, as a community, as humans that belong to the human race. Like, this is our sister, whether you're Muslim or not. This is our sister in humanity and faith. And so this is what we need to focus on. Like you said, it's been 18 years. 18 years have been stolen from her children, from her family, from her. And so I want us to now jump, inshallah, because, time is running and time is of essence. And I know you guys are very busy. So again, thank you so much for being here today and educating us on this case, which is very, very important. This is not the last time that you'll see us together. And so I just want everyone to be very, very optimistic, number one, and very careful when it comes to just believing of what the other tells you, because we're also responsible for that, right? We're supposed to stand up for truth. And so if you just go along with whoever tells you whatever, that is on you. And so I think we need to get out of those childish games and those that way of thinking, that mindset. I personally, I'm a single mother of one, you know, and I'm always looking to do good. And I always think that things can happen to me. And that's why I jump on things. And that's why I'm so passionate of things that I do and the work that I do. Because I always think if that were me in there, I hope you guys are all moving and shaking the world for me to come out. And I think this is so important for us to put ourselves in 1 second. 1 second, just think, if that was me, how would I want my ummah, my community, my family to react, right? Or what would I want them to do? And that's how you get that passion for this work. Specifically for this case, everybody listening has a mother, had a grandmother, has a sister, has daughters, nieces. You are a daughter, you are a woman. And so just think for a minute, everything that this woman, this sister has been ripped up, right? Ripped off. So we are, and I'm going to tell you a little bit how we came about this. So we were all at the rally on Saturday. I couldn't sleep at night, and I was thinking, what next? What do we do next? I know that Brother Faizan is working, you know, logistically on other aspects of the case, and so is Sister Marwa. But I said, as a community, what can we do visibly? What can we do that's tangible, right? And so this is where we need all of you, all hands on deck. I don't care if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're old, if you're young. This is for everyone. You want to support and you want to be an ally. This is your chance right here. So I couldn't sleep, and I said, okay, the last or the only video that's out there of Dr. Aafia Siddiqui is her giving a very inspirational talk, and she's wearing all yellow. So I said, that's it. We're all going to wear yellow because yellow represents everything that was stolen from her youth to, you know, her happiness, to hope, to positivity. And so this is not about, you know, bringing on any negativity. On the contrary, we need to be very optimistic and have full tawakkul. This is where our faith comes in. Have full tawakkul that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in full control. We are just the agents, right? We are just her brothers and sisters that are out here doing a little bit, just a grain of sand to kind of move the ocean for her, inshallah. So Brother Faizan has been working diligently, and I have to give it to him and Sister Marwa because we've been on it this whole week. We've been recording, and so we're working on a very strategic campaign, which you are the first ones to know about. It will launch literally this afternoon, and it starts off tomorrow. So, Sister Marwa, what are you wearing and why?
So, I mean, this is, Nahela is a brilliant mind, mashallah. So Dr. Aafia Siddiqui, Nahela noticed in her only video recording, she was wearing a yellow hijab. And like Nahela was mentioning before, the color yellow holds a lot of, it symbolizes a lot of things that were actually stolen from Dr. Aafia Siddiqui. So we want everyone to start wearing, whether it's a yellow hijab, a yellow scarf, a yellow tie, a yellow whatever, to remember Dr. Aafia Siddiqui every Friday. And to remind everyone that we haven't forgotten her case. We haven't forgotten this injustice that has happened to her and others. And we will not stay silent, and we will not allow it to pass. So that is why Nahela and I are wearing yellow right now.
And Sister Orenda, she hasn't ordered hers, but it's on the way, inshallah. So we will be wearing the yellow. And so, Brother Faizan, what's coming up with CAIR? What are you doing as far as the video, as far as where are we taking it next, inshallah?
Inshallah. Well, first of all, I'm really excited about the I Am Aafia campaign that's going to be starting tomorrow. Today, as Marwa mentioned, is the September 23rd is the day that Dr. Aafia was unjustly sentenced, and the nightmare that she's been through continues to this day. So wear yellow tomorrow, men and women, as you've all said, but also make sure to take a photo of yourself, to take a video of yourself, share that on social media, and write hashtag I Am Aafia. I know, inshallah, when Marwa, visits Dr. Aafia and speaks to her, that she'll be able to show her that the world still cares about her, show her all the women and men who are wearing yellow in her support, and that is something that's going to really uplift her spirit. Beyond that, Our goal is to get Dr. Aafia out of jail. And so we want to do a public education campaign and the social media campaign, but in the end, we want her released from FMC Cardwell and returned back to her country of origin to be with her family for a crime that she did not commit. On November the 14th to the 16th, our office is organizing a nationwide advocacy day for Dr. Aafia in Washington, D.C. And this is an advocacy day where we are going to bring people from across the country, including yourself, if you're interested in joining, to Washington, D.C., either in person or you can join remotely to meet with your congressional offices and explain to them the plight of Dr. Aafia Siddiqui and let them know that this injustice that happened during the dark phase of the so-called war on terror years after September 11th, that this injustice must be corrected. We believe strongly that the government of the United States, while the government of Pakistan, have to be the one that gets Dr. Aafia out of jail. And that is something that's going to require pressure from all of us here. It's going to require advocacy, and it's going to require unapologetic support of Dr. Aafia and her campaign. We hope that, inshallah, everyone will join us either in person or virtually for that program, and to give Dr. Aafia a voice in halls of power, something that unfortunately she has not had over these last 18 years.
Amazing. Sister Orenda, as someone that was not educated about this case, how do you feel and what are you going to do? And you have a pretty large family, so I want you to tell us how you and your family can participate.
Well, that's very true. So I did not know about this case. I did not know anything about Dr. Aafia Siddiqui until there was a post about the protest in front of the prison. And so that's when I became aware of her case. And it's very sad. And I know there are a lot of other cases. However, this is in my backyard. So this is something close to home. And of course, Sister Nahela is a very active activist, and I'm close with her. So I learn a lot about this through her. In the meantime, oh my goodness, go and educate yourself on her story. I guess that's the one thing I would say, because it's one thing to hear someone talk about it, and it's another thing to actually read about what happened to her. It kind of can really put you in her shoes. And I think a lot of the times, growing up, my mom used to always teach me, put yourself in the other person's shoe. And just like Sister Nahela said, it could happen to any of us. It could happen to any of us. And also, as Sister Nahela said in the beginning, once you embrace Islam, you don't really have ethnicity anymore. You're Muslim and you're lumped together with everyone in that group. And I didn't experience racism until I became Muslim as well. So it's a phenomenon that happens, sadly. But we do have a voice to speak up and make a difference. And the more people that do that, the more that we can put waves out there, like throwing that rock in the stream and creating those ripples. And that depends on each of our individual actions. I do have a big family here, so inshallah, I did order some yellow hijabs last night once I came back from our meeting and learned a little bit more from Sister Nahela about Dr. Aafia. So I did order those hijabs, and inshallah, they'll be here tomorrow so I can do my picture. And like they said, make sure take a selfie with your yellow hashtag I am Aafia. Put it all over your social media, send it to your family, ask them to share it out to their friends, ask them to do the same thing. And this can be something that'll go viral to not only let Dr. Aafia know that we know about her, we feel for her plight, and we are all going to do something at least to try to make a difference. And I will get my kids involved in that. And of course, my mother. So I ordered her hijab last night too. My mom's 76 almost. Or she is 76, sorry. So she'll be involved as well. And, there's no age limit on this. You can speak up. And the more people we get involved to share this story, this could be something for the future for other cases as well. When we learn how to work together and collaborate to make a difference, this is what will help in the future for other cases as well, because we can't do them all at the same time. We have to break these down and start working on the injustices and speak up. That is our obligation as Muslims to our fellow human beings.
I like what you said, Sister Orenda. We need to be working collectively. We need to unify, right? There is a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says, and this is something that I learned very early on, but unfortunately the ummah doesn't apply it. But when one of us is aching, all of us are aching, right? When one of us is bleeding, we should all be bleeding. And therefore, you need to take action as soon as possible, as soon as this is off, order whatever it is, whether it's a t-shirt. So there are options out there. If you don't wear a headscarf, sisters, don't think that you have to go put on a headscarf. You can wrap it around. You can wear, a t-shirt, whatever it is, the representing. And more than anything, we want to break the media. We want to make sure that hashtag I am Aafia, it is everywhere. It reaches the Prime Minister, who promised to work on her case and has not. And so we need to make sure that we educate everyone. Sister Marwa, are there anything that you would like to tell our audience? I mean, this is watched everywhere, and I'm sure our audience is going to be sharing it, inshallah, and we're going to be reposting it. So is there anything you would like our audience to know, any advice when it comes to this case, and what should we continue to be doing?
I think the first step is to educate yourself more about the case. Unfortunately, it's a limited time frame, so I can't get into all of the details. This is a very there's a lot of stuff that happened in the case. Like I can tell you, for example, at her trial here in the US, there was an individual who came in who was apparently wearing like Arab headdress. And like very like what you would stereotypically imagine a Muslim to look like, I guess, in like in the movies. So he came in and he was sitting in the audience and he went like this, like he basically threatened the jury. Okay. Two of the jurers were excused as a result of his threats because they felt threatened for their lives. And he was never charged as far as I can tell. He was never held accountable. And there's like a lot of little strange happenings around her case, stuff like that happened that aren't acceptable. And if you're going to bring somebody over here and have a trial, you got to give them a fair trial and a just trial. And that didn't happen in her case at all. And you're going to read a lot of stuff online when you start reading about this case, where they tie her to a bunch of individuals, but there's no evidence. I haven't seen any substantive evidence. How did she meet these people? How did she where did she have these supposed conversations with them? How exactly did you get her dubbed as Lady Al-Qaeda? The only thing that they have that they said that she supposedly did is that she opened a post office box for some guy here. And even that, I haven't even seen any proof of. Right? So we need to be like, if you're going to make accusations against somebody, you need to have evidence. And I think above all of that, that speaks the loudest is she was never charged with any kind of terrorism. Right? So if they had the evidence, if they were able to charge her, why, when she was renditioned over here in 2008, was not supposedly Lady Al-Qaeda charged with terrorism? Why did they charge her with attempted murder? Why did they keep the whole trial only to July 18th of 2008? Why didn't they bring in the other evidence that they allegedly have and present it in court? So those questions need to be asked and we need answers.
You're muted. You're muted, Nahela.
No, don't cancel me or mute me. Brother Faizan, what last advice do you have for our audience, inshallah?
Inshallah, just a few things to take home with you. The greatest tool and the strategy that we have is for all of us here to make dua for Dr. Aafia sincerely on Jummah at night during the Hajjud, and really remember her plight and the situation that she is in. She is a real person. That this is not just a story, but it's a living, breathing mother who is languishing here in Fort Worth. Remember her in your dua, because Allah is the one that's going to release her and whatnot. The second thing is to learn more about Dr. Aafia and her campaign, the work that we're doing. Please visit freedoctoraafia.org, freedoctoraafia.org. And then there'll be a website also called whyafia.org as well. And all that will link to action that people can take if people want to donate or support or sign a petition. They can visit that website and get more information along with timelines and other information like that as well. The third thing I want to say is just to put this in context, during the so-called Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union, there was a historical reality called the Red Scare, which is basically everybody in the United States was considered as a quote-unquote communist. And people were tried unjustly, sentenced unjustly, and there was real panic in this country. That same reality is exactly what happened during the so-called War on Terror, and that reality is what happened to Dr. Aafia. What happened to Dr. Aafia has happened to other people during the Red Scare time, and it continues to this day. So understand that there's multiple layers of injustice, and the more you dig deep, the more upset and angry you get, because it just becomes more and more just dirt and garbage and so-called justice that was done for her. The last thing I'll say is please get involved. Join the I Am Aafia campaign. Join us in DC. Do your part. And once all of us do our part, inshallah, Dr. Aafia will one day be free, and this will be an opportunity for us to really celebrate and then move on to the next person who also has tremendous injustice in this country. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of us, allow our nation that we live in, the United States, to really overcome the last 20 years of this so-called war of terror that has really devastated the lives of so many people. And hopefully, inshallah, we'll be able to look back and try to rectify our sins and our mistakes as a nation. I think Dr. Aafia is an example of multiple sins that this nation has done, impacted on the life of one person.
Jazakallah khair. I know you guys have to go early and you have to go to another meeting, and so we're going to cut it a little short today. But again, they've set the takeaway homes. The only thing I will add is please get involved. This is every Friday. This is not just the one time. We are not going to let it die ever again. Inshallah, we will fight for Dr. Aafia until she is free. Remember, every single Friday, wear your hijab, invite others, do your pictures. Let's make sure that we continue mobilizing for her, organizing for her, and more than anything, unifying each other and working collectively, right? So it's important for us to, if you hear something that doesn't sound right, ask. It's very important. For us converts, we were always told to ask. If we didn't have proof, we asked. And so the same thing goes here. It applies. If something doesn't sound right, please make sure to ask the right people, reach out to these different websites. I'm always available. My pages are pretty open. Ask, and inshallah, you can be an advocate as well for Dr. Aafia Siddiqui. Please remember, tomorrow, this campaign starts tomorrow. You will see a video going around of Sister Marwa and myself. Inshallah, make sure that goes viral, and it has a lot of information there. It has a lot of facts, and it took a lot of hard work to get that video done. Alhamdulillah. So this is the least we can do, and so we want you to please help us be the voice that was stolen from Dr. Aafia Siddiqui. Once again, to our guests, again, it's not going to be the last time that they will be here, inshallah. As this continues, we will probably bring them back. I want to thank both of you for being so accessible and for honestly working this with such a passion. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you, give you the strength that you need to continue doing this work. I know it's not easy. And so, again, starting tomorrow, take a selfie, #I am Aafia. If you have any questions, make sure to inbox us here at Embrace. We would be more than happy to direct you wherever you need to go. Everybody can get involved. Everyone must get involved. This is a human right. And I want to end with a quote that really, it's a dagger to my heart. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "In the end, you will remember not the words of your enemies, but the silence of your friends." So let's make sure that we walk the walk and talk the talk, and don't just stand behind a screen and don't do nothing. Let's make sure that on the day of judgment, we are in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we're able to say that we did everything for our sister, Dr. Aafia Siddiqui. Again, thank you to my panelists. My name is Nahela Morales. We'll see you next week at 11 o'clock. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.